We all have a favorite Marvel character in the MCU, or a favorite DC character in the DCEU, and they are usually tied to one specific actor. If we hear that actor's name, we automatically associate it with that character. When you hear Robert Downey Jr., you immediately think of Iron Man, don't you? How about Hugh Jackman? Did Wolverine come to mind? Anyway, as some actors lock down their characters for nearly a decade, others change drastically from movie to movie, like Batman. That being said, some superhero and villain actors didn't always want to play the characters they were given. Here are some Marvel and DC actors who wanted to play different characters. When you think Captain America, you obviously think of Chris Evans. Well, and sometimes the Human Torch. But did you know that originally he wanted to be someone else entirely? Long before the MCU was established, Evans wanted the role of his childhood hero, Spider-Man. But he couldn't handle being in the mask for long duration due to claustrophobia, and ultimately landed the role of Johnny Storm in Fox's Fantastic Four. Could you imagine Chris Evans in Sam Raimi's trilogy instead of Tobey Maguire? Speaking of Tobey, he was almost replaced by a different actor in Spider-Man 2 after being injured on the set of another film. Jake Gyllenhaal was up to take the Spidey mantle facing off against Doc Ock, but Maguire healed in time to resume his rightful place. Gyllenhaal was also reportedly interested in playing Batman at one point. I think it was in Batman Begins. But we know Christian Bale got that one. Striking out twice, he finally made his way into the superhero world when he was cast as Mysterio in Far From Home. Jake Gyllenhaal wasn't the only actor looked at for Batman. Before we got Batfleck, Warner Brothers wanted Josh Brolin as the DCEU Batman to face off against Henry Cavill. But due to creative differences, the idea faded out and Affleck was brought in. Guardians of the Galaxy star Karen Gillan has shown interest in being in the DCEU, but has a particular character in mind. She said that she would only do it if she could be the first female Joker, and stated that she was born for the role. I don't know if we're talking about Martha Wayne or just a regular version of that character. Ultimately, things probably won't pan out, seeing as to how her role as Nebula still has a character arc to complete in the MCU. Since we're talking about Batman villains, we almost saw X-Men's own Professor X, aka James McAvoy, play one, possibly in Matt Reeves' Batman film. McAvoy stated in an interview that DC has the best comic villains and that the Riddler is one he would like to play. Unfortunately, though, the role of the Riddler in the film has gone to Paul Dano, who will still bring an exciting new element to the character. Dialing it back to Spider-Man, Donald Glover once expressed interest in playing Miles Morales in a film. This basically broke the internet at the time, causing fans everywhere to go nuts, essentially skyrocketing Miles' popularity and spawning that Into the Spider-Verse film. Sadly, though, this never came to light, and Glover jokes about it now. Although, he did get offered a part in Spider-Man Homecoming as Aaron Davis, who is Miles' uncle. So there's that. Another popular Spidey villain is Venom, played by Tom Hardy. We all know Hardy as the symbiote-clad antihero. But first is Bane in The Dark Knight Rises. He was also considered for the role of Rick Flag in Suicide Squad before it was given to Joel Kinnaman. As much as we associate Venom to Tom Hardy, there was another Marvel character he had always hoped to play, and that of Frank Castle, aka The Punisher. He expressed extreme interest and repeatedly voiced his desire to play the character. Jon Bernthal previously portrayed him in the Netflix series, but with Disney starting over with The Punisher, the role is wide open. I doubt that Marvel would ever consider casting him in the role, seeing that Venom has strong ties to Spider-Man and may appear in a crossover in the MCU pretty soon. Tom Hardy isn't the only actor to show an interest in Bane. Fans pointed to Guardians of the Galaxy star Dave Bautista to play the next Bane, as he clearly looks the part of the character. He responded on Twitter with an enthusiastic "I accept." Aside from that, he previously showed interest in playing a role in the Suicide Squad sequel directed by his buddy James Gunn. But due to a scheduling conflict, it just didn't work out. Sadly, we won't be seeing this iteration of Bane, as he isn't due to appear in any upcoming DC films. But it's still a cool thought, though. The role of Loki in the MCU seems to be perfect for Tom Hiddleston. However, that's not the original character he had in mind. Early on, before the first Thor movie, Hiddleston actually screen tested for the role of the mighty Thor. He looked the part and even had the right characteristics that they were looking for the character. But ultimately, Marvel went with Chris Hemsworth instead. And I think things worked out for the better in the end, with Loki getting his own Disney Plus show. And lastly, Eric Killmonger himself, Michael B. Jordan, has played many different roles in the superhero world, starting off in Chronicle and then being chosen as the next Johnny Storm, which nobody really seemed to like. However, I thought it was pretty cool. Anyway, Jordan got most notoriety in the comic world when he took on the role of Killmonger in Black Panther. Fans have been campaigning quite a while for him to play Superman, but not Clark Kent. I'm talking about Calvin Ellis. With Henry Cavill probably not returning, it could be possible, as Jordan has expressed interest, but I guess we'll just have to wait and see on that one. Alright guys, I hope you enjoyed that. Those are some actors who wanted to play different characters than the ones they were dealt in the MCU and DCEU. Stay tuned for more. See ya.